Coming soon from Deadites on Deck, Ozzy the Wonder Squirrel will rock his way into your heart for birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, or any old time. Available with or without sound. Visit deaditesondeck.com today for the hottest new plushie from Pyro Plushies and Evil Dead Chick.
You back. Let's rewind that old horror film. What's that in the background? Something is out of place. Someone shouldn't be there. That line is odd. That reflection is misplaced. Let's have fun finding all the mistakes in our favorite horror films. Let me take you back. Let's rewind that old horror film.
Howdy, gang, and welcome to another edition of Horror Movie Rewind. And here in a little bit, we're going to be talking about the original, Can There Be Any Other, Psycho from 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and based on the book by Robert Bloch. And we're going to be talking about as much trivia and goofs as I can dig up, folks. So hopefully it won't be boring. Hey, Gory Tiger, and yes, the poet, you did not miss this one. I'm glad to see you in here. I hated it so much that I had to do the first Psycho road trip with the Pete Walker films so late last night. But it was just one of those things. Monday and Tuesday of this week at work, it slowed down quite a bit today, and I hope that it's that way tomorrow as well, and that it's quiet when I have to work the evening shift on Friday. But I'm going to get a little housekeeping stuff out of the way. I'm going to make it quick because there are several goofs and trivia to talk about with Psycho. So I just want to do my little spiel about how you can support me in the channel, and it won't cost you a dime. Because, folks, let's be real here. As much as I appreciate all the super chats and the super stickers and people joining my channel and people joining my Patreon, all of that is extremely appreciated. I don't want anybody to think that I don't appreciate it. However, I also know in this day and age that everybody is not made out of money. So I always like to tell you folks that there are several different ways that you can support me in the channel, and it won't cost you a dime. One of the big ways is by subscribing to the channel. Nobody has to know that you subscribed. I mean, I'm not doing a contest right now. Nobody has to know you subscribed. You don't have to watch every video and stream that I do. But you're supporting me just by subscribing, and it's simple. It's free. It's easy. I can't think of anything better that you could do for me in the channel than to subscribe. Yeah, I reached the 1,000 subscriber milestone that I set for myself, but that doesn't mean I don't want to keep growing, folks. It's good to grow. So if you have been dancing around whether you should subscribe or not, hey, just subscribe. Just click and subscribe. It's quick, it's easy, it's painless. And I promise, I will not come to your house and try to minister to you or try to sell you any cookies and candy bars. Okay? And it's as easy as the click of a button to subscribe. Okay? Even you can even hide the fact that you subscribe to me if you want to. Okay. I generally don't look at specifics like that. I just look at the numbers anyway. I'll be, totally honest with you folks. But another way you can support me in the channel and it won't cost you a dime is hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content that I've got coming out. DePoet, you want to know if I'm going to cover the difference in the book? That might be a good idea for another stream on Psycho, and I would love to do it. In fact, DePoet, that is a great idea. If you don't mind me using your idea in the future, to compare some horror movies with their books. The ones that, were based on a book. I mean, there's several Stephen King ones that I could cover. So if you're not against that, I probably won't cover it tonight, DePoet, but that is a fantastic idea for an upcoming series. If you don't mind me, like I said, stealing that idea from you, I would be happy to do it. And we would definitely cover Psycho at some point. Okay. But another way you can support me in the channel and it won't cost you a dime is by hitting the like button on stuff that you particularly enjoyed or particularly liked. And hey, if you liked everything, then hit that like button all across the board. That would be fantastic. And here's yet one more way that you can support me in the channel and it won't cost you a dime, won't cost anybody you tell about the channel a dime. Share with friends and family members my channel that you think would enjoy the content that I'm putting out. And again, I will do you guys a solid and put my channel handle in the chat here. DePoe, you said, no, it's okay. That'd be a good idea for a series. Okay. So, I didn't think that you would accuse me of stealing your ideas, DePoe, but I know some people are really sensitive about that. And so I always like to double check and make sure, because I think it's a fantastic idea for a series. All right. So let's get to some goofs for Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, shall we? So 1 second here. So one of the first goofs that I found is as Marion falls out of the shower after she's killed, her hair is soaking wet. But in the famous still shot of her lying on the floor, her hair is relatively dry. And I do remember seeing that. I actually went back and watched the majority of Psycho last night. I'm not sure why my teleprompter is not working correctly. Okay. So maybe I just need to turn that off. Maybe something's wrong with it. Because it was working last time I tried to use it. Okay. Anyways. The next one, Janet Leigh's body double. And yes, Janet Leigh did have a body double in Psycho. But that body double is obvious when Norman is pulling Marion from the tub onto the shower curtain. The dead woman has painted toenails, while Janet Leigh had clear nails during the stabbing shots, because you can see shots of her feet actually as she's being stabbed. It's like quick cuts. At the car dealership, the same extras, and I actually went and looked at this and I was like, holy cow, they're right. So at the car dealership, the same extras, the people that are on the sidewalks, are seen repeatedly walking in different directions. So you will see the same people walking in one direction and then back in the other direction. When Norman is making his way from the house to the hotel office to greet Marion, it is pouring rain outside. And I think everybody, the scene psycho remembers that. However, in the next shot, when he's in the hotel office, his suit is completely dry. Um, Marion is stabbed repeatedly in the torso while in the shower, and she then presses her front against the wall before turning around and sliding down, which, by the way, is an incredible shot. And the first time I saw that shot of her kind of sliding down the wall and then reaching out her hand and grabbing the shower curtain and it comes down, that just seemed to be a very creepy shot to me the first time I saw a Psycho. But there's absolutely no blood left behind on the shower wall. Keep in mind, like I said, she was stabbed repeatedly in the torso. So wouldn't there be blood smeared on the wall if she actually slid down? Okay, when Norman discovers Marion's body in the shower, he knocks a picture of a bird off the wall. There is no hanger on the wall at that point. Later, when he's cleaning up, the hanger is visible and he hangs the picture back up. So somebody must have fixed it between shots. Continuity error, folks. When Mother exits her room and charges Arbogast, she slashes downward towards his chest. But the wound is on his face when he falls backwards down the stairs. That's an incredible shot, too, by the way. After talking to Norman, Detective Arbogast calls Lila to report on what he's learned. However, Lila was never his client. He was hired by Marion's employer. When the cop awakens Marion in her car, the driver's side windshield frame has dozens of grimy handprints and fingerprints from everyone who's touched it while setting up the shot. As she pulls into the car lot, the grimy handprints and smears are also shown to be all over the door panel. Hey, Blair. When Norman places the folded up newspaper containing the money in the car trunk, it is noticeably thinner than when he picked it up off the nightstand. Must have lost some of the money out there. When Marion falls over the edge of the tub, her head is facing down. But when the camera pulls back from her eye, her head is turned to her right. As Marion approaches the restroom at California Charlie's used car lot, the door hinges on the left with the doorknob on the right, and it has a dark painted glass in the upper half. In the interior shot, the hinges and knob are just the opposite, and the door is a solid slab. In the exterior shot, as Marion exits the restroom, the door is not seen, and hinges are back on the left and latches on the right, consistent with the original view. In the hotel, Sam sits with his arms outstretched. In the close-up of Sam, the shirt has moved across to his right, though he hasn't yet moved his arms. In the opening shots of the hotel window, the Venetian blinds are bunched higher on the right and lower on the left. As the camera closes in, the Venetian blinds are level with the windowsill. That was something I did notice last night as I was rewatching it. In her first night driving scene leaving Phoenix from interior and driver POV, Marion is in the wrong car. Left front fender is not that of the old dark colored Ford she has, but it is the one she is going to trade for at California Charlie's. Oops. The next day, the newer light colored car. While driving in Bakersfield, no car dealership can be seen through the windshield as Marion turns off a major road onto a wide, unlined street. The next exterior shot shows her car turning off a 4-lane lined street into California Charlie's used car lot. When Marion is driving on the 4-lane highway in the rain, when the mirror view is shown, she's in the right lane, with cars in the left about to pass. She looks forward and she's in the left lane. The next rear window scene shows her in the right of the 4-lane highway, but the front view shows a 2-lane. The piece of toast Marion eats while talking to Norman decreases in size inconsistently with her eating it. When Sam and Lila first arrive at the motel, there is a shadow of a nearby tree on the side of the motel office. When Norman runs down from the house a few seconds later, the shadow is miraculously gone. And when Sam and Lila are checking her motel room for traces of Marion, the lid over the toilet seat is up in the bathroom when they enter it. But when Norman left the bathroom after finishing cleaning up, it was down. So, that could have been a goof, or maybe Norman went back in there and cleaned the toilet or something. As Marion leaves the used car lot, the employee shouts after her and brings the suitcase and coat she forgot, placing them in the rear seat behind the driver's seat. When Norman removes these from her car at the motel, he removes them from the rear passenger side. Oops, somebody goofed. As Marion drives on the darkening highway, the sign for the Bel Air Motel can be seen approaching on the right, just beyond a Texaco billboard. Several seconds later, the same sign is seen approaching again. Detective Arbogast phones in about the Bates Motel and Norman. Later, he returns to the motel to investigate. There's a reaction shot of him looking at the Bates house. The sky in the background is clear and uniform. Arbogast glances behind him to make sure he isn't somebody's not tailing him, and then starts out for the house. Now the sky in the background is obviously cloudy. Okay. So I want to, share a few more of these goofs, and then we'll tackle some trivia. So Norman removes a painting early in the film to reveal a hole in the wall. He then is able to look into the bathroom from the door opening, but the bathroom is at the back of the room, not the right side. When Norman has to carry Mother to the basement to hide for a few days, she's full-bodied with round legs that bounce with the weight of each step he takes down the stairs. But in the final shot, when Lila finds her, the body is now just a thin skeleton. As the camera pans from Marion Crane's feet to the shower drain, the blood seems to be flowing in a thin stream from a wound hidden from view, somewhere on her left shin near the ankle. However, most, if not all, of the stab wounds she suffered are to her chest and abdomen. The killer would have had to stoop quite low to stab her in the leg. There is, as previously noted, no trace of blood consistent with the wounds that are seen to be inflicted. When the police officer backs in behind Marion's car on the shoulder of the highway, no tire tracks from his vehicle are visible in the soft dirt. In the shower, the placement of the curtain rings varies multiple times. When Norman peeps through the hole in the office wall, Marion is seen donning her bathrobe. She is wearing black underwear while placing the robe on her body. The next scene, she enters the bathroom and takes off the robe. However, there is no black underwear. When Lila finally meets Mrs. Bates, she recalls in horror hitting the hanging ceiling light sending it swinging back and forth. The bulb is clearly frosted, which was invented to soften the shadows it casts. But in the rest of the scene, the shadows are stark, as from an unfrosted bulb. Can't even talk tonight. When Marion first gets out of her car at the motel in the rain, the windshield wipers are running at a much faster rate than they were in the previous shot from inside the car through the windshield. When Marion starts getting wet in the shower, at first her hair is dry. She starts washing her arms, then turns her head slightly, but only enough to wet just a few hairs. Then all of a sudden, almost all of her hair is soaking wet. A guy Marion grabs the shower curtain and manages to rip it completely off its rings as she falls onto the bathroom floor. A standard shower curtain is 6 feet by 6 feet, and Marion was sitting down when she grabbed the curtain, which means that at most she could have pulled only about half the shower curtain down. When Marion is in the shower before she is killed, in one shot she has her eyes closed. In the next cut, her eyes are open. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about a factual error and maybe some incorrectly regarded as, or maybe we'll skip down. Here's a factual error, though. At the time of the film's production in 1959, the California Highway Patrol did not use Fords in their fleet, only Dodges with the famous D500 power plant. Also, the livery of the vehicle is incorrect. Only the front doors were painted white. The roof and rear doors were black. However, the CHP star on the front doors, as well as the emergency flasher and spotlight arrangement, are correct, and the uniform worn by Mort Mills is as well. Here's it's incorrectly regarded as a goose, it says, but when Marion is in the motel room writing in the notebook with her bank book above it, the balance is added incorrectly after the January 15th deposit of $48.38. The previous balance was $752.74, so the new balance would be $801.12, but it was $800.12 in the bank book. This simply indicates that Marion, like so many other people, is less than proficient at math. Let's talk about some crew or equipment visible, because there's a lot of things in here, and I don't want to, overburden y'all with so much information. So, when Marion first gets out of her car and meets the salesman at the used car dealership, a crew member is reflected in the car door. Partway through the shot, he suddenly crouches down. Marion is in her apartment changing her clothes after stealing the money. As the camera dollies toward the money lying on the bed, a shadow of the camera or member of the crew briefly appears on the bedspread in the lower right portion of the frame. And I did see that watching it last night. When Lila and Sam are walking from their motel room to the office, the reflection of a crew member can be seen in the window between rooms 1 and 2. When Marion pulls into the motel during the rain and sees the office, she drives over to it and stops. In the next shot, 2 lights on a stand can be seen to the immediate left of the office, left by the crew. The shadow of the camera falls on the lady examining the pesticide can in Sam's hardware store. And when the camera does the extreme close-up of Marion dead on the shower floor, the gaffer or cameraman and his light are reflected in her eye. And there's several more, but I'm not going to sit here and read all of these off to you. But we're going to cover some trivia too, to kind of round out this stream. Just give me just a second here. All right. Director Sir Alfred Hitchcock was so pleased with the score written by Bernard Herrmann that he doubled the composer's salary to $34,501. Hitchcock later said 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music. Ironically, he was originally adamant that there should be no music in the shower scene, but he was persuaded by his wife to give it a try. The screeching violins and dire strings, which would inspire the music for Jaws, 1975, ended up selling the scene and driving theatrical audiences beyond anything they had ever experienced. Alfred Hitchcock bought the rights to the novel anonymously from Robert Bloch for only $9,000. He then bought up as many copies of the novel he could in order to keep the ending a secret. I mean, Hitchcock was evidently serious about this. When the cast and crew began work on the first day, they had to raise their right hands and swear an oath not to divulge one word of the story. Alfred Hitchcock also withheld the ending part of the script from his cast until he needed to shoot it. After this movie's release, Alfred Hitchcock received an angry letter from the father of a girl who refused to have a bath after seeing Diabolique 1955 and now refused to shower after seeing this movie. Hitchcock sent a note back simply saying, "Send her to the dry cleaners." Walt Disney refused to allow Alfred Hitchcock to film at Disneyland in the early 1960s because Hitchcock had made that disgusting movie, Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock wanted to make this movie so much that he deferred his standard $250,000 salary in lieu of 60% of the movie's gross. Paramount Pictures, believing the movie would do poorly at the box office, agreed. His personal earnings from the movie exceeded $15 million. Adjusted for inflation, that amount would be equivalent to over $156 million in 2024 dollars. When Norman first realizes there's been a murder, he shouts, "Mother, oh God, God, blood, blood." Alfred Hitchcock had the bass frequencies removed from Anthony Perkins' voice to make him sound more like a frightened teenager. I didn't know that, but that's interesting too. Paramount Pictures gave Alfred Hitchcock a very small budget with which to work because of their distaste of the source material. Well, apparently Paramount was notorious for this because fast forward to the Friday the 13th years, and they always treated Friday the 13th movies like the redheaded stepchild, right? Even though they made money. They also deferred most of the box office take to Hitchcock, thinking the movie would fail. When it became a sleeper hit, Hitchcock made a fortune. Every theater that showed this movie had a cardboard cutout installed in the lobby of Alfred Hitchcock, pointing to his wristwatch and with a note saying, "The manager of this theater has been instructed at the risk of his life not to admit to the theater any persons after the picture starts. Any spurious attempts to enter by side doors, fire escapes, or ventilating shafts will be met by force. The entire objective of this extraordinary policy, of course, is to help you enjoy Psycho more." Alfred Hitchcock. Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh said that they did not mind being stereotyped forever because of their participation in this movie. They said in interviews they would rather be stereotyped and be remembered forever for this classic movie than not be remembered at all. And I think that's a very healthy way to look at things. So many of these actors and actresses, some not nearly as proficient as Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh, want to hide from the world the fact that they were in, "Oh, I was in some horror movie or a slasher movie or whatever." In order to implicate viewers as fellow voyeurs, Alfred Hitchcock used a 50 lens on his 35 millimeter camera. This gives the closest approximation to the human vision. In the scenes where Norman is spying on Marion, the effect is felt. The base house, though moved from its original location, still resides on Universal's lot. The motel has been replicated. It is a regular stop on the Universal Studios tram tour. For a shot looking up into the water stream of the showerhead, Alfred Hitchcock had a 6-foot diameter showerhead made up and blocked the central jet so that the water sprayed in a cone past the camera lens without any water spraying directly at it. The reason Alfred Hitchcock cameos so early in the movie, and you see him outside on the sidewalk in front of the bank where, or I don't know, it's not a bank, it's I guess a loan place, a place where people get loans. But that's where you see Alfred Hitchcock's cameo. But the reason why it was so early in the movie was because he knew people would be looking out for him and he didn't want to divert their attention away from the plot. In the opening scene, Marion Crane is wearing a white bra and slip before dressing in an all-white outfit, complete with a white handbag. Alfred Hitchcock made that wardrobe choice to establish Marion as being good and pure. After Marion has stolen the money from her boss, the following scene shows her packing her belongings while semi-dressed in a black bra and slip. She dresses in a darker outfit and has changed from a white handbag to black. The change from an all-white wardrobe to black is to demonstrate that Marion has gone from angelic to evil. I think that's a little strong, but to ensure that people were in the theaters at the start of the movie rather than walking in part way through, the studio provided a record to play in the foyer of the theaters. The album featured background music, occasionally interrupted by a voice saying, 10 minutes to Psycho time, 5 minutes to Psycho time, and so on. Before Psycho, movie theaters would play shows on rotation all day long. People would frequently come in the middle of one and stay till the middle of the next showing, leaving when they came in. But Hitchcock made all the movie theater owners sign a contract that they would not let anyone in until the start of the film. Once they were late, they would not be let in until the next showing. This started formalizing the whole process of mandatory seating times at theaters, which continues until today. Not really around here in Louisville, though. One of the reasons Alfred Hitchcock shot the movie in black and white was he thought it would be too gory in color. But the main reason was that he wanted to make the movie as inexpensively as possible, under $1 million. He also wondered if so many bad, inexpensively made black and white B movies did so well at the box office, what would happen if a really good, inexpensively made black and white movie was made. Although Norman Bates typecasted Anthony Perkins, he said he still would have taken the role even if he knew the character would dog his career. The movie in a large part was made because Alfred Hitchcock was fed up with the big budget star-studded movies he had recently been making and wanted to experiment with a more efficient, sparser style of television filmmaking. He ultimately used a crew consisting mostly of television veterans and hired actors and actresses less well known than those he usually used. Specifically, Vertigo, 1958, which was later hailed as a masterpiece, was considered a bloated, over-budgeted misfire. And while North by Northwest from 1959 was hailed as a masterpiece and was a hit, it was a huge production and it was also very time-consuming and expensive. So Hitchcock decided to scale things back for his next movie. Also during the same period, his rival, French New Wave and noir film director Henry Georges Clouzot hit the bullseye and created a critical box office sensation with the classic Diabolique in 1955. All the critics said Clouzot had out-Hitchcocked Hitchcock, and this presented a confrontation which Hitchcock could not turn down. Diabolique was a small-scale, gritty, black and white independent movie. So Hitchcock decided to put out Diabolique and directed his own small-scale, gritty black and white project that was Psycho. Although Janet Leigh was not bothered by the filming of the famous shower scene, though she used a body double, seeing it on film profoundly moved her. She later remarked that it made her realize how vulnerable a woman was in the shower. To the end of her life, she always took baths. Sir Alfred Hitchcock used Bosco chocolate syrup instead of blood because it showed up better on camera. The official trailer back in 1960 ran on for over 6 minutes and 30 seconds and featured unheard of in a feat unheard of in today's trailers. Yeah, people will probably lose interest today. Today's audiences. The score, composed by Bernard Herrmann, is played entirely by stringed instruments. Janet Leigh received threatening letters after this movie's release, detailing what they would like to do to Marion Crane. One was so grotesque she passed it on to the FBI. The culprits were discovered, and the FBI said that she should notify them again if she ever received any more letters. On set, Alfred Hitchcock would always refer to Anthony Perkins as Master Bates. Hitchcock did have the reputation for often harassing male and female cast members, like Tippi Hedren and Billy Mooney, etc. The novel upon which this movie was based was inspired by the true story of Ed Gein, a serial killer who was also the inspiration for Deranged from 1974, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre also from 1974, and The Silence of the Lambs from 1991. This movie only cost $800,000 to make and earned more than $40 million. Alfred Hitchcock used the crew from his television series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, to save time and money. In 1962, he exchanged the rights to the movie and his television series for a huge block of MCA's stock, becoming its third largest stockholder. That sound the knife makes when it's penetrating the flesh is actually the sound of a knife stabbing a cassava melon. Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh were allowed to improvise their roles. For example, Norman's habit of munching on candy corn. The shot of Arbogast falling backwards down the stairs was a process shot of Martin Balsam sitting stationary and waving his arms, as if losing his balance in front of a screen projecting a previously filmed dolly shot moving down the stairs. The amount of cash Marion stole, which was $40,000 in 1960, would be equivalent to approximately $352,000 in 2020. The $700 difference she paid when trading in her car and getting another one would be equivalent to about $6,100. At the time of the film's production, because of an FCC ruling, any references to toilets could not be presented in both film and television. To add realism to the story, Joseph Stefano was adamant about seeing a toilet on screen, and he wanted to see it flush. Alfred Hitchcock told him he had to make it so through his writing if he wanted to see it. Stefano wrote the scene in which Marion adds up the money, then flushes the paper down the toilet, specifically so the flushing was integral to the scene and therefore irremovable. This was the first American and possibly the first fictional movie ever to show a toilet flushing on screen. In Robert Bloch's novel, Norman Bates, and here is a difference here between the book and the movie, The Poet. In Robert Bloch's novel, Norman Bates is a short, fat, middle-aged, and very unlikable person. It was Alfred Hitchcock who decided to present him as a young, handsome, and sympathetic man. Norman is also more of a main character in the novel. The story opens with Norman and Mother fighting rather than following Marion from the start. When she was auditioned for the job of Janet Leigh's body double in Psycho's iconic shower scene, model, dancer, and Playboy cover girl Marley Renfro said she had to strip naked for Alfred Hitchcock. After he examined her every curve, he took her to Janet Leigh's trailer where she had to drop her robe again while Leigh reviewed her body. Renfro was a dedicated nudist and a professional stripper, so she had no issue being naked in front of people. After she was cast, she said she spent hours a day for a week naked on set in front of Hitchcock and a mostly male crew as they shot from every angle. At one point, Hitchcock attached a measuring tape to the lens of the camera, walked over and put the point of it on her left nipple to make sure her breasts would be out of focus. But she said he was an absolute gentleman and went out of his way to make her feel comfortable. The Bates house was largely modeled on the 1925 oil painting House by the Railroad by American artist Edward Hopper. It was the first painting acquired by New York's Museum of Modern Art in 1930. The architectural details, viewpoint, and austere sky are almost identical to the house in the movie. This was the highest grossing movie of Alfred Hitchcock's career. In an interview on the Dick Cavett Show in 1968, Alfred Hitchcock said of the shower scene, everything was so rapid that there were 78 separate pieces of film in 45 seconds. Janet Leigh invented a complete backstory for Marion Crane, figuring out what she was like in high school, her favorite colors, etc. After this movie was released, for years, Anthony Perkins refused to talk about the part of Norman Bates because everyone associated Perkins with the character. Alfred Hitchcock was initially disappointed with the movie. He even disliked the shower scene and believed the movie would end up on a low-budget drive-in double bill. According to Bernard Herrmann, Hitchcock thought of editing it down for broadcast on his television show. Hitchcock did not conceive of music for the shower scene, but Herrmann did it anyway. After seeing the movie with its score, including the shower sequence, he realized that the movie would work. First billed Anthony Perkins does not appear until 27 minutes into the movie. Second billed Vera Miles does not appear until 57 minutes into the movie. Anthony Perkins was Alfred Hitchcock's first choice for the part of Norman Bates. Janet Leigh has said that when he cast her, Alfred Hitchcock gave her the following charter. I hired you because you're an actress. I will only direct you if A, you attempt to take more than your share of the pie, B, you don't take enough, or C, if you're having trouble motivating the necessary time movement. According to biographers, Alfred Hitchcock had a troubled relationship with his own domineering mother, who, like Mrs. Bates, forced him to stand at the foot of her bed and tell her everything that had happened to him, although the real relationship was not as disturbed as that seen in the movie. This was Alfred Hitchcock's first horror movie. And Vera Miles wore a wig for her role, as she had to shave her head for the role in Five Branded Women from 1960. I did not know that. I did not know that she wore a wig. The Bates house was definitely creepy to Poet. I agree with you there, no doubt about that. There was just something always, atmospherically creepy, if I may say so. Now, there are lots more trivia and goofs out there to be had, but I don't want people to feel like that I'm reading a book to them while I'm doing these streams. So I try to pick the highlights and share with you guys and gals the stuff that I think would be the most interesting. So I guess that is it from me for tonight. And for this edition of Horror Movie Rewind, talking about Psycho from 1960. I want to thank Gory Tiger and the Poet and Blair for stopping by tonight and hanging out with me in the chat. For those of you that popped in and maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, I thank you for stopping by as well. And for those of you that didn't get to watch me live as I was going through these, but will watch this on the replay, I appreciate all of you as well. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday night, folks. I should be back tomorrow night, hopefully at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with They're All Messed Up. We're going to be talking about The Killer Reserved 9 Seats and People Toys and the kills in each one of those films, because, yeah, that's what we do on They're All Messed Up. But yes, again, have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday night, folks. And if you love Aussie as much as I do, get out there and blast some Aussie and try your best to live the Aussie way. And what do I mean by that? And don't stay stuck in the past, folks. Move forward from the present into the future and never, ever give up on your dreams. I love each and every one of you guys and gals out there, and I'll see everybody next time.